Yes, that's right. Let's go back to 1972. One very early November morning, I'm 7 years old. I'm sleeping in my bedroom, which I shared with my younger brother, who's 5 years old, and one of my older brothers, who was 19. They shared a bunk bed, and I was sleeping in my own bed. Suddenly, like I'm sleeping, and suddenly I hear my dad's voice yelling so loud, "Coco, Coco, wake up, your mother's dead." I didn't know what was happening. I slowly get out of bed, and I rub my little eyes, and I start walking to my parents' bedroom. And what do I see? I see my mom lying there, her right arm stretched out, and she was just lying like this, right? Like with her arms stretched out over the bed. Lifeless. And she was all white. And then I heard my father talking to my brother Coco, my older brother Coco. I couldn't understand what they were saying. All of a sudden, Coco left the room. And then, shortly after that, my favorite aunt, who lived across the street from us, she rushes into our house, and she grabs me and my baby brother and like from the bedroom, and she takes us to the living room. And then not too long after that, my other siblings with their girlfriends or their wives, they came over, because my parents, they had 5 kids, and then for a long, long time, they didn't have any. Then they had me and my younger brother, so there's a big, big gap. And then more aunts and more uncles and cousins. Like, all of a sudden, like, the whole house was full of people. But nobody was talking to me and my baby brother, Jean-Guy. Nobody. Nobody explained to us what has happened to our mom. Nobody comforted us. I did not even cry. In fact, I didn't even cry until I was in my 20s. My mom had left us alone. Yes, she died. But back then, I thought, my mom left us with our dad. And our dad was abusive. Our dad was abusing his children physically, emotionally, and sexually. My only source of love was my mom, and she was gone. Growing up, I always felt this void inside. I was craving love so bad, but I never received it. With all the abuse that was going on, I believed that I was not important. It didn't take long for me to start thinking that I was not valuable and I was not worthy of respect at all. I was always searching to fill this void inside of me all my life. And I did that by making other people happy. I desperately searched for love all the time. It was my goal in life. Get love any way you could. Everything I did was to get love from others. Unfortunately, I didn't know any better, and I went about it the wrong way. Now fast forward to my mid-20s, after ending an unhappy 7-year marriage. I guess I got the 7-year itch. I was free to do whatever I wanted, right? And oh my gosh, there are a lot of temptations out there. So many men, but so little time. But you know what I did? I fell in love with my boss. He was kind and gentle and so caring towards me. I worked very long hours, well, we both did, and that's how we became very close. No one ever treated me so well. So I began to have an affair with my boss. And yes, he was married. And I'm the one who seduced him. Oh my gosh, when I was, like in the past, when I was younger, My sister would watch The Edge of Night and General Hospital. I remember. And I would call, like, some of the storylines, and there's a lot of people cheating. And I remember thinking, why are these single women having sex with married men? I would never do such a thing. That is so frigging stupid. But here I was. Here I was having an affair with a married man for just over 6 years. Yeah, that's right. I didn't think of what this was doing to their marriage, especially his wife. My gosh. It felt so good being with him. I didn't care about anything else. I felt good, and I felt cared for. That's all that mattered to me. The hell with the consequences. But at night, I was very lonely because he was home with his wife and I was home alone. And the only thing that kept me going was the fact that he would promise me one day he will be with me. He would leave his wife to be with me, right? But at one point, sorry. At one point, I was even afraid to lose him because he had children of his own, but then he started talking to me that he'd never wanted more children and he did not want me to get pregnant. So I was afraid to lose him. So I wanted him to trust me. So I went to see my doctor and I told my doctor I wanted my tubes tied. My tubes tied. I'm French, the words sometimes don't come out of my mouth. I wanted my tubes tied, and my doctor said, Lise, you're too young for this. Maybe you want more children. And I said, no, this is what I want. So I had my tubes tied because I wanted him to trust me. Isn't it funny that I was doing everything I could for him to trust me, but of course I couldn't trust him because he was still having sex with his wife, and so he should, but I eventually broke up with him because I was sick and tired of waiting for him. I finally got the point that, okay, he will never leave his wife. And he was just making empty promises. After I broke up with him, I had lots of other men, even other married men, if you can imagine that. Yeah, I've had many, many boyfriends. My relationships with men were very unhealthy. It seemed like my life had been a forever long heartbreak. I was struggling to find love and happiness. One day, I was determined to figure out why this was happening. So I turned to God. That was my last resort. I turned to God for help because I knew I couldn't do this on my own. And various things happened, but then I got the opportunity to attend this 9-month-long course. Oh my gosh, it was like giving birth to a baby, 9 months. And it was a whirlwind of emotions, really. During that, it was a transformational course, obviously, and lots of anger and regret and shame and guilt and sadness, like all these things that I was feeling inside all my life, finally came out, right? And it was tough. It was really, really tough, but it was so worth it. And my first realization was that people who are hurting hurt others. And I'm sure you've heard that before, but I had not. So knowing this fact allowed me to have compassion for people, especially the people that have abused me. I was therefore able to forgive all of them. And I was able to forgive myself for the actions that I thought I did wrong. And my second realization was that I am a creation of God, and God doesn't make junk, right? He just doesn't. I am wonderfully made. And there's only one person like me, just like there's only one person like you, like you, like you. And He loves us all. It's just humans that are hurting, that bully other people and call them names and don't accept others. But God loves everyone. It was so freeing to let go of the pain that I had inside. And this happened like in my mid 40s. Like I'm 53 now. It's almost 10 years ago. When I started to, it was freeing to let go of the pain that I had built up inside over the years. And when I started to accept and love myself, I stopped allowing destructive relationships into my life. I had no idea that I had the power to change my life. Imagine that. Once I realized this, I took my power back and I transformed who I was. The emptiness I felt inside for years has been filled with love and peace and hope. The pain that we carry in our hearts affect how we think and what decisions we make in life. I tell you, I developed really bad habits because of the way I viewed myself. I wish I had known this in my early years, but hey, I had my own journey. The sooner we deal with our skeletons, the sooner our life change. So I began to tell other women about my transformation, and I became a support for other women. I discovered that we don't have to live in emotional turmoil, and we do have the power to decide what to accept in our life. It's now my mission to disrupt the status quo in people's lives so they can break free from emotional pain and flood the world with love. When we release our past and clean our hearts, we take back our power and begin to improve our direction in life. What are you waiting for?